Most people believe calmness comes when life finally goes their way. When work is easy, people are kind, and nothing goes wrong. But the Stoics saw it differently. They said the world will always be full of chaos, anger, and loss. Waiting for life to be perfect is like waiting for the sea to stop moving. True calm doesn't come from controlling storms outside of you, but from mastering the storms within you. So how do we find that kind of strength? The answer lies in 10 timeless lessons from Stoicism that remain as powerful today as they were 2,000 years ago. At the heart of Stoicism is a simple but life-changing idea. There are things within our control and things beyond it. Everything depends on how we respond to that distinction. Epictetus, once a slave with no power over his circumstances, built his philosophy on this truth. He couldn't choose the body he was born into or the masters who commanded him, but he could choose his thoughts, his words, and his actions. That was enough to set him free inside, even while chains bound him outside. Think about how this applies today. You cannot control whether someone insults you online, whether the train is late, or whether it rains on the one day you forgot an umbrella. But you can control whether you lash out, whether you let frustration ruin your morning, or whether you laugh and move forward. This is the first step toward calm, directing your energy only where it has meaning. The Stoics would remind us that we waste most of our lives worrying about what was never ours to command. By practicing the art of focusing only on what belongs to us, our choices, our reactions, our inner character, we discover a calm that no outside force can take away. The world can remain unpredictable, unfair, even harsh. Yet the person who learns this lesson becomes unshakable because they have built their peace where no storm can reach. The first lesson is simple to understand but difficult to live. You cannot control the world, only your mind. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders. He knew he couldn't control the wars at the borders, the plague spreading through the city, or the betrayals in the Senate. But in his private writings, he reminded himself daily that his own thoughts and judgments were his true kingdom. Everything else was secondary. In our daily lives, we face the same truth on a smaller scale. You can't control the traffic that makes you late, the weather that ruins your plans, or the mood of your boss when you walk into the office. But you can control whether you stew in anger or choose patience, whether you curse at the rain or use the time to pause and reflect. The difference between a day lost to frustration and a day kept in peace is not the situation. It is your response. Calmness grows when we stop trying to bend the world to our will. No amount of worry or anger will make people act the way we want. The Stoics call us back to the only ground that is truly ours, our own mind. By mastering this inner territory, we gain freedom. The storm outside may rage, but within we can remain steady, unmoved, and clear. This is where calm begins, not in control over others, but in mastery of ourselves. The second lesson is to expect hardship instead of being surprised by it. Seneca advised his students to practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He told them to imagine in advance the troubles that life might bring, loss, sickness, poverty, or disappointment, so that when those troubles actually arrived, they would not be shaken. The point was not to live in fear, but to strip fear of its power. We live in a world that constantly promises comfort and security. Advertisements tell us life should be smooth, that problems are failures of planning. But reality does not work that way. Jobs end, relationships break, health falters. If we build our peace on the idea that nothing will go wrong, then even the smallest setback feels like the end of the world. The Stoics turned this mindset upside down. They chose to prepare for struggle as a certainty, not an exception. Think of it this way. When a soldier trains, he does not hope the battle will never come. He prepares so that when it does, he can face it with strength. In the same way, a calm mind is not one that avoids hardship, but one that has rehearsed it. The next time you are rejected, betrayed, or disappointed, remember that the Stoics would say, "This is not strange, this is life." By expecting difficulty, you rob it of the power to shock you, and in that readiness, you keep your calm. The third lesson is that anger hurts you more than it hurts others. Seneca wrote an entire book warning about the dangers of anger, calling it the most destructive of emotions. He saw how it clouded reason, poisoned judgment, and left lasting damage long after the moment had passed. Anger feels powerful in the instant, but its true power is to weaken the one who carries it. Think about how many arguments you've had that solved nothing. Words spoken in rage cannot be taken back. Friendships are broken, families wounded, opportunities lost, all because someone refused to master their temper. The person who insulted you may move on and forget, but if you keep replaying the offense in your mind, you are the one who continues to suffer. Anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to fall. The Stoics remind us that calm is the wiser choice, not because injustice doesn't matter, but because anger never improves it. To respond with clarity instead of fury is to keep your dignity. To forgive, or at least to let go, is to free yourself from chains stronger than any iron. Imagine facing an insult and smiling instead of shouting. Imagine seeing betrayal and choosing to remain centered. This is not weakness, it is strength. For the one who rules their anger rules their own life, and that rule cannot be stolen. Calmness, in the Stoic view, is victory over the fire that destroys from within. The fourth lesson is to focus on virtue, not on opinion. For the Stoics, the only true good was virtue, living with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. Everything else was secondary: wealth, reputation, even health. These things could be lost at any time, but virtue was always within reach because it depended only on the choices you made. In today's world, so much energy is spent chasing approval. We post to be liked, speak to be praised, work to be noticed. Yet the more we depend on the opinions of others, the less calm we feel. Praise can lift us, but the same mouths that praise can tear us down. The person who ties their peace to reputation is like a ship anchored to the wind, always drifting, never steady. And the Stoic path is different. Marcus Aurelius wrote that it should not concern us if others criticize or misunderstand, as long as we remain true to what is just and reasonable. Imagine being insulted online and feeling no need to argue back, because you know that your worth is not up for debate. Imagine failing in public but standing firm because your measure is not applause, but integrity. Calm grows when you stop letting strangers decide whether you are at peace. The opinions of others will always shift like sand, but virtue stands like stone. To the Stoics, to live rightly was enough, regardless of who watched or who judged. When you hold to this, you are no longer at the mercy of gossip, criticism, or praise. You are free. The fifth lesson is to remember that time is short and must not be wasted. Seneca warned that people guard their money carefully, but are reckless with their time, even though time is the one thing no one can repay. He wrote that life is not short, but we make it short by spending it carelessly. When we act as if tomorrow is guaranteed, we postpone what truly matters and drown in distractions. Look at how easily hours slip away today. Endless scrolling, mindless entertainment, rushing from one task to the next without pause. We tell ourselves we are too busy to live fully, but the truth is we are busy with what does not matter. The Stoic reminds us that calm comes when we live with intention, when every moment is treated as precious. Think of how fragile life really is. None of us is promised another decade, another year, or even another day. To recognize this is not to live in fear, but to live awake. If today is all you have, would you waste it on anger? Would you give it to envy? Would you trade it for noise? The calm life is not about slowing time, but about using it wisely. To spend time with purpose, on learning, on love, on virtue, is to stretch it beyond measure. When you live as if every day might be your last, you begin to see how much peace there is in simply valuing the time you are given. The sixth lesson is to detach from possessions. Epictetus taught that wealth is not measured by how much you own, but by how little you need. A person who cannot live without luxury is never truly free, because their peace depends on fragile things that can be lost in an instant. The more you cling to possessions, the more they control you. Think of how modern life tempts us to believe happiness lies in the newest phone, the bigger house, or the next purchase. Yet how quickly the joy fades once the novelty is gone. What remains is not calm, but a hunger for more. If peace depends on possessions, it will always slip through your fingers because possessions are temporary. The Stoics practiced detachment not by rejecting all comforts, but by refusing to worship them. If you own something, enjoy it with gratitude, but be ready to lose it without despair. If it breaks, if it is stolen, if fortune takes it away, remember it was never a part of you. True calm comes from knowing that your well-being does not rest on objects, but on your character and your choices. Imagine losing your wallet and feeling only mild inconvenience instead of panic. Imagine your phone breaking, and instead of outrage, you find patience. This is the freedom Stoicism offers: the ability to walk through life lightly, unburdened by the fear of losing what was never truly yours. The seventh lesson is to practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believed that comfort makes the mind soft, while small doses of hardship make it strong. They trained themselves to go without luxuries, so that if fortune ever stripped them away, they would not be broken. Seneca advised sleeping on the ground or eating simple food for a few days, and then asking, "Is this what I feared?" By facing discomfort on purpose, they discovered calm even in the face of loss. In our time, it is easy to avoid struggle. Climate control keeps us warm or cool, food arrives with a click, and most challenges can be solved with convenience. But this constant ease can make us fragile. When something finally does go wrong, even small setbacks feel overwhelming. Voluntary discomfort is a way to train the mind against this weakness. You don't need to live like a monk to apply it. Take a cold shower instead of a warm one. Skip a meal to remind yourself you can handle hunger. Walk instead of driving. Sleep without your usual pillow. These small practices strip away the illusion that you cannot live without comfort. The result is freedom. When you learn that you can endure more than you thought, fear loses its grip. The next time life throws real hardship your way, you will not be shattered. You will meet it calmly because you have already chosen to meet smaller storms. To the Stoics, strength of mind is built not by avoiding discomfort, but by welcoming it as a teacher. The eighth lesson is memento mori, remember death. To the Stoics, reflecting on mortality was not morbid, but essential for living well. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he could leave life at any moment, and Seneca urged his readers to consider death as the constant companion that makes life precious. By remembering that our time is limited, we see more clearly what matters and what does not. Most people push death out of their minds, pretending it will come later, far away. But when it suddenly appears, through the loss of someone close or a health scare, they are shaken to the core. The Stoic does the opposite. By accepting mortality ahead of time, he robs it of its terror. Death is not an interruption of life, but the natural end of it. To deny this truth is to live in fear. To embrace it is to live with freedom. Think of how this changes perspective. A quarrel loses its weight when you remember that neither you nor the other person will be here forever. Envy fades when you realize possessions and fame vanish at the same speed for all. Gratitude grows when you wake up knowing this day is a gift, not a guarantee. Memento mori does not make life darker, it makes it brighter. By remembering that life will end, you see more clearly how to live now. Calm arises from this awareness, because when you stop clinging to immortality, you are finally free to live fully in the present. The 9th lesson is to live according to nature. For the Stoics, this meant aligning yourself with reason, with the order of the universe, and with the role you were meant to play. They believed that much of human misery comes from resisting what is natural, wishing events were different, wishing people were other than they are, or wishing the world would bend to our desires. To live according to nature is to accept reality as it is, and then to act rightly within it. Marcus Aurelius wrote that when you face difficulty, it is not an accident, but part of the natural flow of life. Just as winter brings cold and summer brings heat, life brings hardship and ease. Fighting against this truth only multiplies suffering. Peace comes when we stop demanding that life be smooth and start working with it as it truly is. In our modern lives, we often push against nature in small ways that add up, resisting the passage of time, clinging to control over others, refusing to accept limits. But the more we fight reality, the less calm we feel. Living according to nature means embracing change, loss, growth, and even death as parts of the same whole. Imagine a river. You can exhaust yourself swimming against the current, or you can learn to move with it. The Stoic chooses the second path. Calm is not found in controlling the river, but in aligning with its flow, steering wisely, and accepting its direction. This is the way of nature, and it is the way of peace. The 10th lesson is that community and justice matter. The Stoics believed no one is born only for themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote that just as the hand or foot exists to serve the body, each of us exists to serve the whole of humanity. Calm does not come from isolation or selfish gain, but from fulfilling our duty toward others with fairness and compassion. Think of how much anxiety grows when life is lived only for competition, trying to outshine, out-earn, or outdo everyone else. In such a mindset, every person becomes a rival, and peace is impossible. The Stoics turned this around. They saw every human being as part of the same family, deserving of respect, even when difficult. To treat others with justice is not just a gift to them, it is a gift to yourself, because it keeps your soul untroubled. In daily life, this might mean speaking truth instead of spreading lies, offering help when it is within your power, or choosing patience when wronged. It means holding to principle even when no one is watching. When you live in harmony with others, you live in harmony with yourself. Imagine facing insults, but responding with kindness. Imagine helping someone in need without expecting repayment. These choices may seem small, but they build an unshakable peace. For the Stoics, justice was not optional. It was the highest expression of reason and nature. And when you live with justice, calm follows naturally, because your life is in step with the order of the world. The challenge is that even knowing these lessons, we often fail to stay calm. Modern life pulls us in every direction. Our phones buzz with constant notifications, each one demanding attention. News feeds overflow with fear and outrage. At work, deadlines pile up faster than we can meet them. At home, relationships strain under the pressure of too many words spoken in haste. It feels like calm is a luxury few can afford. But the truth is, we are not lacking calm because the world is more chaotic than in the past. Rome faced wars, plagues, and betrayals, yet the Stoics still found peace. What makes it harder today is that we let our minds be ruled by reaction. We want instant relief, instant answers, instant success. In chasing what we cannot fully control, we hand our peace over to circumstance. Think of how quickly we lose composure. A rude comment ruins the day. A small delay feels like a personal insult. We are shaken not by the events themselves, but by our judgment of them. This is exactly what Epictetus warned about. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we form about them. The challenge then is not the noise of the world, but the training of our minds. Without practice, emotions rule us. Without reason, fear and anger take the lead. The Stoics remind us that calm is not a gift handed to us by fortune. It is a discipline we must build, a skill we must train daily. The way forward is to apply Stoicism in daily practice. The Stoics never believed calm would come simply from reading or agreeing with their words. It had to be lived. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal each morning and evening, reminding himself of what was within his control and what was not. This habit of reflection kept him steady even while ruling an empire. We can do the same, not as emperors, but as people seeking peace. Start the day with a simple question. What challenges might I face today, and how will I choose to meet them? By anticipating difficulties, you strengthen your mind before they arrive. End the day with another question. Did I live with reason and virtue today? By reviewing your actions, you learn from mistakes and prepare for tomorrow. These small rituals keep the mind sharp and calm. Another practice is reframing setbacks. If something goes wrong, instead of saying, "Why me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" A delay becomes a chance to practice patience. A criticism becomes an opportunity to grow. The Stoics did not see obstacles as enemies, but as exercises for the soul. Calm is not an accident. It is trained like a muscle. Each time you choose patience over anger, discipline over indulgence, reason over fear, you grow stronger. Slowly, the storms of life lose their power to shake you. Stoicism shows that peace is not waiting somewhere in the distance. It is built daily through choices, reflections, and steady practice. The key moment of Stoic teaching is the vision of the unshakable mind. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, an emperor surrounded by betrayal, war on every border, plagues sweeping through his people, constant pressure from those who sought his downfall. Yet, in the quiet of his journal, he wrote words of peace. He reminded himself that death is natural, that anger is useless, that virtue is the only true good. Even with the weight of an empire, he trained himself to remain calm. This is the climax of Stoicism. Calm is not for the lucky or the sheltered. It is possible even in the harshest circumstances. The Stoic does not need perfect conditions to feel at peace. He carries peace with him, like a flame that cannot be extinguished by the wind. While others are tossed back and forth by fortune, the Stoic stands steady, because his foundation is within, not outside. Think of the power in this idea. If calm can be kept in the middle of war, disease and betrayal, then surely it can be kept in the face of a rude stranger, a long line, or a personal setback. The world cannot take away what it did not give. Calm belongs to the one who has mastered their thoughts, their judgments, their character. This is the highest aim of Stoicism, to become unshakable, not because the world bends to you, but because you no longer depend on it to find peace. The storms will come, but your mind will remain still, clear, and free. The lessons of Stoicism form a path to calm that is as relevant now as it was 2,000 years ago. First, we saw that peace begins with recognizing what is within our control and letting go of the rest. Then we learned to expect hardship instead of being surprised by it, to master anger before it masters us, and to care more about virtue than about the opinions of others. We remembered that time is short, possessions do not define us, and comfort can weaken us unless we choose to face discomfort willingly. We reflected on death as a guide to living fully, on living in harmony with nature, and on serving others with justice and compassion. Together, these lessons form a way of life that does not depend on the world being kind, but on us being steady. The Stoics never promised that life would be easy. They promised that by training the mind, we could endure whatever came with dignity and strength. Calm is not the absence of storms, but the ability to remain unmoved while they pass. The modern world will never stop being noisy, unpredictable, and demanding, but you do not need it to. The wisdom of the Stoics shows that calm is not found in controlling events, but in mastering your response to them. It is built moment by moment, choice by choice, until it becomes a way of being. The storms of life will come. The question is not whether they will arrive, but how you will meet them. The Stoics remind us that the answer lies within. If this wisdom spoke to you, subscribe now to keep learning how Stoic philosophy can strengthen your mind and steady your life.